Welcome back, everyone. My name's Terry Rich, and I'm filling in for Lou. First time I met Lou was on the radio. I just come off the Johnny Carson show, and I did an interview with him. I always remember that because Lou has this fancy coffee cup that he keeps, and I'm going to bring out here one of these days and show you what he drinks in it. And then I'll also tell you what Ed McMahon on the Tonight Show was drinking during the night we were there. A little bit of history, a little bit of memories. Well, let's find out what happened. I think it was 50 or 60 years ago. To bring in our next guest, Professor Jeff Stein. Of course, he's with the Iowa Almanac, and 60 years ago, something famous happened. It was a time of protest. Now, I got to protest during the 70s, early 70s, but this was back and made a little history. Jeff, tell us all about it.
Well, Terry, good to talk to you again. Good morning, everyone. A group of Iowa students really led the way on this, 10 men and 4 women. They left Grinnell College by car on November 13th of 1961. They arrived in Washington, D.C. just 3 days later. Now, their goal in 1961 was to protest against atmospheric nuclear testing. They were trying to influence the young president, John Kennedy, who was still in his first year in office at that time. Grinnell's Student Senate passed a resolution in support of the protesters, and around 160 students on the campus there in Poweshiek County fasted in solidarity while the group was in the nation's capital.
Now that seems like that'd get a lot of attention back here in the state or throughout the state, but did it get much attention in Washington?
You know, it did, Terry. They caused quite a stir, being the first to do such a thing. They even made it on NBC's Huntley Brinkley Report, the evening newscast. They made headlines in international newspapers and were, in fact, welcomed into the White House to meet with officials. President Kennedy, by the way, was away at the time, but they got to talk to policy advisors. And the Grinnell 14 even went to the Soviet embassy to simply ask why nuclear testing was continuing. And they set an example, as I suggested. Tom Hayden, later, of course, part of the Chicago 7, well, he credited the Grinnell group with helping launch the broader 1960 student peace movement. The Grinnell 14 were followed by students from dozens of other schools, one after another, in a series of protests in Washington that actually lasted nearly a year.
Let's see, if that happened 60 years ago, that means that I can still remember crawling under the desk where they taught us how to hide under the desk in case of a nuclear attack. That's crazy. Well, was there an impact to all these protests?
Well, less than 2 years after the protest, the U.S., the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom signed a partial test ban treaty, and that ended the various atmospheric tests that the students were against. But attention was given to the issue by that group of 14 Grinnell College students who arrived for a week of protests in Washington on this date in 1961, as you note, 60 years ago this very day, sir.
Great history. Thank you very much, Jeff Stein with the Iowa Almanac. Now, Jeff, you probably have some absolute favorites. Somebody says, what's your most favorite memory or history note of the state of Iowa? This is live.
Well, you know, yeah, when we go through these Iowa Almanac stories, and we've done them now going on 7 years, more than 400 stories there at iowaalmanac.com, I still love the story of the guy who invented the Eskimo pie in Ottawa, Iowa, because he ran a candy store, and a kid came in with a nickel and couldn't decide if he wanted ice cream or chocolate. He had to choose between the two. And the owner of the store said there's got to be a way to make it easier for kids, and he created the Eskimo pie.
I'll tell you what, a lot of fun, and history, you make it fun for us as adults and also for the kids, I'm sure. One more time, let's give you a plug of where people can find out more information about the Iowa Almanac.
We're on 30 radio stations across the state, but always online at iowaalmanac.com.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Jeff Stein with the Iowa Almanac. We've got all sorts of fun times and great guests throughout today. We appreciate you coming on. Thanks, Jeff.